Hello there, and welcome. Today we're going to be playing Surrounded, and we're going to be reading The Count of Monte Cristo. We'll do this probably about a chapter at a time of the book, and then we'll come back and play for a little bit, and then we'll jump back into reading. We're going to be starting a new character. I have made it a very short ways into the game, so I am pretty much brand new. So we'll throw a character together here. For this one, we're just going to do a standard non-permadeath run as I get to grips with the game a little bit. Leave everything as default. And then, who knows? Maybe eventually we'll start doing permadeath runs or something like that. Alright, we're spawned in. This is in our inventory. Looks pretty barren. We have two rags. Looks like something medical. Knife. And that is it. So, just checking all of the key bindings. Make sure we have good audio. Tweak the audio a little bit here. Turn the recording volume up a little on the stream and turn this down a little. Let me turn my headset up so we can hear things and I'm not overpowering you with the game audio. There we go. Okay, so from the little bit I've played, this game is very similar to DayZ, which, if you're not familiar, was originally a mod for a realistic military shooter called Arma. It's just aimed to be a very realistic zombie apocalypse survival game. Let's see here. I do know generally you're going to find more loot and equipment within buildings, and we'll discover points of interest along the map. This is the map that we're working with. Unfortunately, without a GPS, we can't see where we are at on the map, so unless you're very familiar with the region, it would be hard to tell. I would imagine, based on the foliage, we would be in possibly this region? Who knows? Maybe we can actually identify this. There's no way we're right there, is there? Green on the far side, and two yellow patches. Green on the far side, two yellow patches. Building would be on the northern side of the road, but that would be my left from this road. Yeah, I think we just found where we are. That's crazy. Okay, let's do some looting and see what we're working with. Again, from the little bit I've played, I do know getting a backpack is very essential in the game. Hopefully we don't get hit. Got hit once. So one zombie at a time isn't too terribly much to deal. Oh, the luck. Dealing with one zombie at a time isn't too much to deal with. But when you get multiples together, or you get one that, there we go, rotate that. One that hits you in just the right way, they have a chance to cause you to start bleeding, where you'll start taking damage over time. And that is rather dangerous. Just found a Molotov. Crowbar. How's this shirt compared to mine? I don't know much about the actual evaluation, so a lot of times I go off the price value, but I don't know if that actually matters at all. I know we will encounter vehicles, so perhaps taking some of these parts would be valuable. I wonder if we can put the broken glass. Oh, it's a shame. It would be cool if you could throw the broken glass bottles as a distraction. Alright, let's go check out upstairs and see what we're working with. Nice. I think we need to crouch. Nothing behind that. I was hoping there would be some fun interaction for hitting the punching bag. Maybe in some future planned update. Ooh, that tent is quite nice, but unfortunately we don't have any way of carrying it. I already have a Molotov. Let's sacrifice this plastic for a battery. Ah, I wish we had some way of carrying this tent that would take up most of our inventory. It says it does have its own storage, but you can't put things in that storage, so it must be when it's deployed. We'll tell you what, we'll put a little mark on the map here at this industrial building. Maybe we can... Oh. Adding a marker requires a GPS. Alright, well, hopefully we remember this industrial building had a tent in it, and maybe we can eventually come back and get it and set up a little base camp. But for now, let's see what we're working with. The friendly scavenger up there. I know they're not openly hostile, whereas the raiders will shoot on sight. But I don't think there are any interactions as of yet. Scavenger. Feel... Oh, there really isn't even much to take from them. Oh, interesting. You can craft medical rags, bandages with antiseptic and cloth. Removes bleed and heavy bleed, and removes bleed. Oh, so if we were to hit heavy bleed right now, we would have no way of dealing with it. I don't know the exact percentage that these restore. My hunch is it's 10 out of 100 is your overall health, but we'll have to just see whenever I go to use one. Fishing rod. Oh my goodness, there's a slot for it. We don't even have to carry it. Muffler. I've never heard those called a muffler before. Stack some water bottles. Ooh. Schmog. XP multiplier applied in scavenging skill until level up. Interesting. How does one... Oh, we can read it. Okay, so we just consumed one. Maybe we hold on to that one. So I'm uncertain. Let's look at the key bindings really fast. I'm very unfamiliar with like like the progression in this and the leveling. I'm curious if there's like a menu. Map visibility is photo mode. I may have just scrolled right past it, but zoom player camera. Got nothing there. Maybe if and when we level up, we'll get some clarity. Let's do a quick sanity check on the map. Yeah, look at that. Large industrial area up the road from the industrial building we were at. Okay, we're gonna have to deal with this sprinter. Unless we want to go way around, but this shouldn't be too terrible. The two-handed weapons are miles ahead of... Ah, a firearm. A hunting rifle. That's huge. 308. Doesn't have any modifications yet. Interesting. Okay. I'm sure we'll have to find ammunition for it. Let me see if I were to equip it. Oh, it has some. It looks like it might have some ammo. Maybe. Let me look in here again. Reload. Yeah, reload is set to R. I might be missing something, but I would assume if we have it down in the bottom right in the reserve, we would just be able to load it. But either way, probably not going to be anything we want to be shooting at. But that's very exciting. I've never seen loot like that on a zombie. Okay, nothing on her. Let's go take a peek. Oh, look at that. Is this a fire station? Looks like that might be like a burned out engine up front. Let's see what we're working with in here. Some more random tools. I get the feeling I'm going to regret not bringing those. Fire axe. This would be an upgrade from a baseball bat, I'd imagine. And unfortunately, we do not have the room to be carrying that. So we'll have to sacrifice it. Oh, that was a lot of damage. Like, detonated with the red effect. It's 45 ACP. I'm looking for 308. Keep looting in here. You know, we're at half health, so let's test this out. So we're going from 53% to 63%. Okay, so it's 10% or 10 health. These jeans look nice. Are they better than mine? Black heavy? No, they're fine. Okay, let's see if we can find a backpack. Some wire cutters to get into that. Some more jeans. There were quite a few zombies around. Skirt. Look at that skirt, that looks like a kilt. Oh, it has storage. I hate to say it, but for practicality, we're gonna go with the skirt here. Yeah, that looks like a, with the equipment on it, that little thing hanging off the back, that looks like a kilt to me. Which I guess there's not really much of a difference between the two. Okay. I think we already looted this. Oh no, we didn't. Trainers. I like my boots. Bring some sardines with us. Another scavenger volume 1 through 3. Nice. There's another fire axe. I am so excited. On the developer roadmap, the developer has stated that they're going to be adding multiplayer in the relatively far future, and that is just, this game would be such a blast with friends. I don't want that. I actually didn't even want this skirt. I should be able to rip it into cloth, and then if we were to revisit this scavenger, they had the friendly scavengers had the crafting bench. We could potentially make some more bandages. Alright, let's see what we're working with out front. Not too bad. Oh, lovely blue plaid shirt, 12 gauge ammunition. Bolt cutters are probably going to come in useful. Maybe some 12 gauge. We'll see. We shall see. We can search the helicopter. I may wind up not collecting all this ammunition, but if this is anything like DayZ, you will wind up needing every round as I'm dropping it. This barricade looks interesting. Toss that in. Black t-shirt. Another scavenger volume. I wonder what the value of those scavenger volumes is going to be. Okay, so we're finished here. The option to head up this way or head out this way. I like the look of this city area. So let's make a plan. Let's head around here, check out these houses, and then start working our way north. We'll come around the river and track up into there. Looks like maybe a gas station down there. Got a zombie out on the side up there. And we just hit the 18-minute mark. I think either at 20 minutes or if we find a natural stopping point, like me being killed, we can switch over and do some reading. So I'm very excited to start the Count of Monte Cristo. I'm only loosely aware of it. I believe there was a film adaptation that I have not personally seen. Okay, all in all we only attracted 2, that's not terrible. Let's do this. And that's the value of the two-handed weapons there, is not only the damage but the crowd control. The swing radius is so much larger than the knife or the one-handed. I have used the hand axe before, and that's also very good for a one-handed, but so far in the little playing I've done, the fireman's axe has been the best I've seen. I'd like to get in and loot these houses. I feel like that's going to be an adventure, so we're just about to hit 20 minutes, so let's pause here. Fortunately, playing offline, we can just pause wherever, and then when we come back from reading, we'll jump back in and go loot these houses. So go ahead pause the game and transition over. To clear up my reading voice. Alright, The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. Looks like this one is going to be illustrated. That's exciting. For the video there will be something to look at as we go through. 5 volumes. Goodness, this might be a bit of a big undertaking. So our first page here, Dantes is cast into the sea. And him saying, "My name is Edmond Dantes." I bet these will just return in the book itself. So we'll just jump straight to chapter 1. Chapter 1. Marcellus, the Arrival. On the 24th of February, 1815, the lookout at Notre Dame de la Garde signaled the three-master, the Pharaon from Smyrna, Trieste and Naples. As usual, a pilot put off immediately, and rounding the Chateau, I believe that's Chateau d'If, got on board the vessel between Cape Morgion and Rion Island. Immediately, and according to custom, the ramparts of Fort St. Jean were covered with spectators. It is always an event in Marcellus for a ship to come to port, especially when the ship, like the Pharaon, has been built, rigged, and laden at the old Fosse docks, and belongs to the owner of the city. The ship drew on and held safely past the strait, which some volcanic shock has made between Calasang and Jaros Islands, had doubled the Bomagou and approached the harbor until topsails, jib, and spanker. Under topsails, jib, and spanker. But so slowly and suddenly that the idlers, with instinct which is the forerunner of evil, asked one another what misfortune could have happened on board. However, those experienced in navigation saw plainly that if any accident had occurred, it was not standing by the side of the pilot. Oh, I skipped a line there. That if any... Where did I lost my place here? Asked. If any accident had occurred, it was not to the vessel herself, for she bore down all evidence of being skilfully handled. The anchor, a cockabell, the jib boom, guys already eased off, and standing by the side of the pilot was the steering Pharaon towards the narrow entrance of the inner port, was a young man who, with activity and vigilant eye, watched every motion of the ship and repeated each direction of the pilot. The vague disquietude which prevailed among the spectators had so much affected one of the crowd that he did not await the arrival of the vessel in harbor, but jumping into a small skiff, desired to be pulled alongside the Pharaon, which he reached as she rounded into the La Reserve basin. When the young man on board saw the person approach, he left his station by the pilot, and hat in hand leaned over the ship's bulwarks. He was a fine, tall, slim young fellow of 18 or 20, with black eyes and hair as dark as a raven's wing. His whole appearance bespoke the calmness and resolution particular of men accustomed from the cradle to contend with danger. "Ah, it is you, Dantes," cried the man on the skiff. "What's the matter, and why have you such an air of sadness aboard?" "A great misfortune, Morale," replied the young man. "A great misfortune for me especially. Off Civitavecchia we lost our brave Captain Leclerc. "And the cargo?" inquired the owner eagerly. "It's all safe, Morale, and I think you'll be satisfied on that head. But poor Captain Leclerc." "What happened to him?" asked the owner, with an air of considerable resignation. "What happened to the worthy captain?" "He died." "Fell into the sea?" "No, sir, he died of brain fever in dreadful agony." Then, turning to the crew, he said, Bear a hand there, to take in sail." All hands obeyed, and at once 8 or 10 seamen who composed the crew sprang to their respective stations. At the spanker brails and outhaul topsail sheets and halyards, the jib, downhaul, and the topsail clewlines and buntlines, the young sailor gave a look to see that his orders were promptly and accurately obeyed, and then turned again to the owner. "And how did this misfortune occur?" inquired the latter, resuming the interrupted conversation. And then we have a picture of Dantes. Look at that. Somewhere between like a Victorian era sailor and Jack Sparrow himself. "Alas, sir, in the most unexpected manner, after a long talk with the harbour master, Captain Leclerc left Naples greatly disturbed in mind. In 24 hours he was attacked by a fever, and died 3 days afterward. We performed the usual burial service, and he is at rest, sewn up in his hammock with a 36-pound shot at his head and at his heels, off El Giglio Island. Giglio, off El Giglio Island. We bring to his widow his sword and cross of honor. It was worthwhile truly," added the young man with a melancholy smile, "to make war against the English for 10 years and to die in his bed at last, like everybody else." "Why, you see, Edmund," replied the owner, who appeared more comforted at every moment, "we are all mortal, and old must make way for the young. If not, why there would be no promotion. And since you assured me that the cargo—" "It's all safe and sound, M. Morrel. Take my word for it, and I advise you not to take 25,000 francs for the profits. And I advise you not to take 25,000 francs for the profits of the voyage." Then, as they were passing the round tower, the young man shouted, "Stand by! To lower the topsails and jib, right up the spanker." The order was executed promptly as it would have been on board of a man of war. "Let go, and clew up!" At the last command all of the sails were lowered, and the vessel moved almost imperceptibly onward. "Now, if you will come on board, M. Morrel," said Dantès, observing the owner's impatience, "here is your supercargo. M. Danglars coming out of his cabin, who will furnish you with every particular. As for me, I must look after the anchoring and dress the ship in mourning." The owner did not wait for a second invitation. He seized the rope which Dantès flung to him, and with an activity that would have done credit to a sailor, climbed up the side of the ship, while the young man, going to take his task, left the conversation to Danglars, who now came towards the owner. He was a man of 25 or 26 years of age, of unprepossessing countenance, obsequious. I am hitting all sorts of new words today. Obsequious to his superiors, insolent to his subordinates, and this in addition to his position as a responsible agent on board, which is always obnoxious to the sailors, made him as much disliked by the crew as Edmond Dantès was beloved by them. "Well, M. Morrel," said Danglars, "you have heard of the misfortune that has befallen us?" "Yes, yes. Poor Captain Leclerc. He was a brave and honest man, and a first-rate seaman, one who had seen long and honorable service, and became a man charged with the interest of a house so important as that of Morrel and Son," replied Danglars. "But," replied the owner, glancing after Dantès, who was watching the anchoring of his vessel, "it seems to me that a sailor needs not be so old as you say, Danglars, to understand his business, for our friend Edmund seems to understand it thoroughly, and not to require instruction from anyone." "Yes," said Danglars, darting at Edmund a look gleaming with hate. Gleaming with hate. So Danglars has some hope for Edmund. "Yes, he is young. Youth is invariably self-confident. Sincerely was the captain's breath out of his body when he assumed... Scarcely was the captain's breath out of his body when he assumed command without consulting anyone, and he caused us to lose a day and a half in the Isles of Elba instead of making for Marcellus direct." Ooh, we have a picture of the Pharaon. I love these sketches. They're beautiful. huge. Clearly my frame of reference for all this is Pirates of the Caribbean, because that looks like the Black Pearl to me. But it's gorgeous. As to taking command of the vessel, replied Morrel, what was his duty? That was his duty as captain's mate. As to losing a day and a half of the island of Elba, he was wrong unless the vessel needed repairs. The vessel was in good condition, as I am, and as I hope you are, Morrel, and this day and a half was lost from pure whim, for the pleasure of going ashore and nothing else. Dantes, said the ship owner, turning towards the young man. Come this way. In a moment, sir, answered Dantes, and I'm with you. And calling the crew, he said, Let go! The anchor was instantly dropped, and the chain ran rattling through the porthole. Dantes continued at his post in spite of the presence of the pilot until his maneuver was completed, and then he added, Half-mast the colors and square the yards. You see, said Danglars, he fancies himself a captain already, upon my word. And so, in fact, he is, said the owner. Except your signature and your partner's, Morrel. And why should he not have it? Asked the owner. He is young, and it is true, but he seems to me a thorough seaman, and of full experience. A cloud passed over Danglars' brow. Your pardon, Morrel, said Dantes, approaching. The vessel low rides at anchor, and I am at your service. You hailed me, I think? Danglars retreated a step or two. I wish to inquire why you stopped at the island of Elba. I do not know, sir. It was to fill the last instruction of Captain Leclerc, who, when dying, gave me a packet for Marshal Bertrand. Then did you see him, Edmund? Who? The Marshal? Yes. Morrel looked at him, and then drawing Dantes on one side, he said suddenly, And how long is Emperor? What? I completely lost the thread of this. Then did you see him, Edmund? Who? The Marshal? Yes. Morrel looked around him, and then, drawing Dantes on one side. Oh, he's like pulling him aside. And how is the Emperor? Very well, as far as I could judge from the sight of him. You saw the Emperor, then? He entered the Marshal's apartment while I was there, and you spoke to him. Why, it was he who spoke to me, sir, said Dantes with a smile. And what did he say to you? He asked me questions about the vessel and the time she had left in Marcellus, the course she had taken, and what was her cargo. I believe if she had not been laden and I had been her master, he would have bought her. But I told him I was only mate, and that she belonged to the firm Morel and Son. Ah, yes, he said. I know them. The Morels have been shipowners from father to son. And there was a Morel who served the same regiment as me when I was in the garrison at Valence. Perdu! And that is true, cried the owner, greatly delighted. And that was the policiar Morel, my uncle, who was afterwards a captain. Dantes, you must tell me, my uncle, that the Emperor remembered him. And you will see it will bring tears to the old soldier's eyes. Come, come, continued he, patting Edmund's shoulder kindly. You did very right, Dantes, to follow Captain Leclerc's instructions, and touch at Elba, although if it were known that you had conveyed a packet to the Marshal and conversed with the Emperor, it might bring you more trouble. All right. I'm going to take a quick pause here. I'm going to get some water, and then we will return. And with that, we will resume. Read a couple more pages, and then we'll jump back into Surrounded. How could that bring me trouble, sir? Asked Dantes, for I did not even know of what I was the bearer, and the Emperor merely made such inquiries he would of the first comer. But pardon me, here are the health officers and the customs inspectors coming alongside. And the young man went to the gangway and departed. Danglars approached and said, Well, it appears he has given you a satisfactory reasons for his landing at Portoferrajo? Well, most satisfactory. Yes, most satisfactory, my dear Danglers. Well, so much the better, said the supercargo, for it is not pleasant to think that a comrade has not done his duty. Dante's has done his, replied the owner, and that is not saying much. It was Captain Leclerc who gave the orders for the delay. Talking of Captain Leclerc, has not Dante given you a letter from him? To me? No. Was there one? I believe that, besides the packet, Captain Leclerc confided a letter to his care. Of what packet are you speaking, Danglers? Why, that which Dante's left at Porto Ferraro. How do you know he had a packet to leave at Porto Ferraro? Danglers turned very red. I was passing close to the door of the captain's cabin, which was half open. I saw him give the packet and letters to Dante's. He did not speak to me of it, replied the ship owner. But if there had been any letter, he will give it to me. Danglers reflected for a moment. Then, Morrel, I beg you, he said, not to say a word to Dante on the subject. I may have been mistaken. At the moment the young man returned, and Danglers withdrew. Well, my dear Dantes, are you free now? Inquired the owner. Yes, sir. You have not been long detained. No, I gave the customs house officer a copy of our bill of lading, and as to the other papers, they sent a man off with the pilot, whom I gave them. Then you have nothing more to do here? No, everything is all right now. Then you can come and dine with me. Really, I must ask you to excuse me, Emperor. My first visit is due to my father, though I am not less grateful for the honor that you have done me. Who is this Mercedes? Right, Dante's quite right. I always knew you were a good son. And, inquired Dantes with some hesitation, do you know how my father is? Well, I believe, my dear Edmund, though I have not seen him lately. Yes, he likes to keep himself shut up in his little room. That proves at least that he has wanted for nothing during your absence. Dante smiled. My father is proud, sir, and if he had not a meal left, I doubt he would ask anything from anyone except from heaven. Well, then, after this first visit has been made, we shall count on you. I must again excuse myself, M. Morrel, for after the first visit has been paid, I have another which I am most anxious to pay. True, Dantes, I forgot that there was at the Catalans someone who expects you no less impatiently at your father, the lovely Mercedes. Dantes blushed. Aha, said the ship owner, I am not in the least surprised, for she has been to me 3 times inquiring if there were any news of the Pharaon. Peste, Edmund, you have a very handsome mistress. She is not my mistress, replied the sailor gravely. She is my betrothed. Sometimes one and the same thing, said Morrel with a smile. Not with us, sir, replied Dantes. Well, well, my dear Edmund, continued the owner, don't let me detain you. You have managed my affairs so well that I ought to allow you the time you require for your own. Do you want any money? No, sir. I have all my pay to take, nearly 3 months' wages. You are a careful fellow, Edmund. Say I have a poor father, sir. Yes, yes. I know how good of son you are, so now hasten to see our father. I have a son too, and I should be very wroth with those who detain him from me after a 3 months' voyage. Then I have your leave, sir? Yes, if you have nothing more to say to me. Nothing. Captain Leclerc did not, before he died, give you a letter for me. He was unable to write, sir, but that reminds me that I must ask your leave of absence for some days. To get married? Yes, first, and then to go to Paris. Very good. Have what time you require, Dantes. It will take 6 weeks to unload the cargo, and we cannot get you ready for sea until 3 months after that. Only be back again 3 months for Pharaon, added the owner, patting the young sailor on the back. Cannot sail without her captain. Without her captain? Cried Dantes, his eyes sparkling with animation. Pray mind what you say, for you are touching on the most secret wishes of my heart. Is it really your intention to make me captain of the Pharaon? If I were the sole owner, we'd shake hands on it now, my dear Dantes, and call it settled. But I have a partner, and you know the Italian proverb, Jiha compagno ha padron. He who has a partner has a master. But the thing is at least half done, so you have one of the two votes. Really, on me to procure you the other, and I will do my best. Ah, Emerald, exclaimed the young seaman, with tears in his eyes, grasping at the owner's hand. Emerald, I thank you in the name of my father and Mercedes. That's all right, Edmund. There's no providence that watches over the deserving. Go to your father, go and see Mercedes, and afterwards come to me. Shall I row you ashore? No, thank you. I shall remain and look over the accounts with Danglars. Have you been satisfied with him on the voyage? That is according to the sense you attach to the question, sir. Do you mean, is he a good comrade? No, for I think he never liked me since the day I was silly enough, after a little quarrel we had, to propose to him to stop for 10 minutes at the island of Monte Christo to settle the dispute. A proposition which was wrong to suggest, and he was quite right to refuse. If you mean as a responsible agent, when you ask me the question, I believe there is nothing to say against him, and that you will be content in the way in which he has performed his duty. But tell me, Dantes, if you had command of the Pharaon, should you be glad to see Danglars remain? Captain or mate, at Morel I shall always have the greatest respect for those who possess the owner's confidence. That's right, Dantes. I see you are a thoroughly good fellow, and I will detain you no longer. Go, for I see how impatient you are. Then I have your leave? Go, I tell you. May I have use of your skiff? Certainly. Then, for the present, Morel, farewell, and 1,000 thanks. I hope to see you again, my dear Edmund. Good luck to you. The young sailor jumped into the skiff and sat down on the stern sheets, with the order that he be put ashore at La Canneberry. The two oarsmen bent to their work, and the little boat glided away rapidly as possible in the midst of the 1,000 vessels, which choke up the narrow way which leads between the two rows of ships from the mouth of the harbor to the Quai d'Orleans. The ship-owner, smiling, following him with his eyes until he saw him spring out of the quay and disappear into the midst of the throng, which, from the 5 o'clock morning till the 9 o'clock night, swarms in the famous streets of La Canneberry, a street which the modern Phoenicians are so proud that they say, with all the gravity in the world, and with that accent which gives so much character to what is said. If Paris had La Canneberry, Paris would be a second Marcellus. On turning round to the owner, Danglars behind him, apparently awaiting orders, but in reality also watching the young sailor. But there was also a great difference in the expression of the two men, who thus followed the movements of Edmond Dantes. Dun dun dun! This is an exciting first chapter. We'll go ahead and call this video here. I'll probably be jumping straight into recording the next one, but I want to try to keep these around an hour or a little bit less. This one will probably run for 40-ish minutes. But hopefully we'll see you in part 2. Thank you for watching.